Growing revenue, increasing profitability, and obtaining financing are the results of running your small business like a pro.
This is really the path to achieving the success that most entrepreneurs and business owners are looking to achieve. But it's a path where most people get stuck between step one and step two.
Businesses close every day because their owners were not able to create a successful, sustainable enterprise. If you do not create an enterprise, the only way that you can sell your business successfully is you sell yourself with it.
This book is a common sense guide for learning how to run your small business as a professional enterprise.
You can pick up the book as a new entrepreneur or as a seasoned entrepreneur and get something out of it. It's very educational.
It provides a fundamental understanding of the challenges small businesses face with real-world solutions that drive results.
Life examples of what happens in business with cash flow, handling money, very, very accurate, and they were experiences that I've had.
Structure. If I do a shoot, I know that there are certain steps that I have to take to get me to where I need to go. But when it comes to business, I didn't have the same sense of what needed to be done. Andrew helped me see systems or steps to take to grow your business. So he's helped systematize it.
I worked with a client who was looking to retire and sell his business and expected to get over $500,000 for it. However, when I assessed the business and looked to figure out what the value was, it was less than $100,000. Why was this? Because he didn't create an enterprise. The business was centered around him, and without him, there wasn't a business. This book helps you to understand how to create an enterprise where it can run successfully without you.
Get your copy today. Andrew Frazier's new book online at www.runningyoursmallbusinesslikeapro.com. Also available on Amazon.
Keep your cash flowing. So, as a business owner, probably every single business owner has had cash flow issues at some point in time. Anybody never have cash flow issues? Anyone have cash flow issues every so often? All right. If you're like most small business owners, you have cash flow issues almost all the time because that's what part of what small business is about. So that's why it's so important to understand how to keep your cash flowing in the right direction. So that's what we're going to talk about today, because it's the lifeblood of your company. I was talking to Melinda, and we partner well with what we do because she works with you to get sales and cash coming in, and I work with you to make sure that you keep cash in and it doesn't all go away. So that's what we're going to be talking a little bit about today. So can anyone tell me what's the definition of cash flow? Because I think it's important before you talk about something to make sure we're all on the same page. So anyone, what's the definition of cash flow? Well, you know too much, so it's not fair. So anybody?
Consistency of income.
Okay, consistency of income. Anybody else?
Money coming in and out of your business.
Okay, money coming in and out of your business. Cool. Anything else? Yes.
Operating capital.
Okay, operating capital. Okay. All right. So those are all great, and all have a piece with it. We're going to be talking about all those, but at the end of the day, it's just a simple equation: cash coming in minus cash going out gives you your cash flow, and your cash flow is the change between the cash you started with and the cash you ended with. So this is not rocket science. A lot of people see numbers and their eyes glaze over and they start dying. But this is, I'm going to break it down in a way that it's easy to understand because it's really powerful to understand how it works, because then you can avoid the pitfalls and be prepared for things rather than be proactive as opposed to just being reactive. The difference between running your business and having your business run you. So that's what we're talking about here today. So I'm from Pittsburgh. So, if anybody knows anything about Pittsburgh, the first thing you know is the Steelers. And when you think about the Steelers, you think about the steel curtain. If you're over a certain age. If you don't know what the steel curtain is, then, you need to go do some research. But, that was with me, Joe Green, Elsie Greenwood, Ernie Holmes, and Dwight White. And anybody know why they were called the steel curtain? You couldn't get through, so you couldn't get through them. So they fought hard and were not letting you get through. Okay. And, one thing about defense is, offense is important. You got to score points. Melinda was talking about that earlier. But if you give away as many points as you score, then you lose. So, defense wins games many times because the Steelers had a great defense. Offense was okay every so often. But same with cash flow. You work so hard to get revenues, and many small businesses, all the revenues go out in expenses, and it doesn't have to be that way. There's so much room for improvement and growth in most businesses. I worked for a company a couple of years ago, and as their outsourced CFO, and they were pretty profitable and doing good things, but we figured out a way to double their profitability on the same sales. So think about that. You keep twice as much money on the same sales. And that's really what we're talking about. How do you keep the money and your profits for you, but also to grow your business? So let's take a look. There's 3 key strategies I'm going to be talking about today. So we've got how you've got to shorten your cash flow cycle. Very, very important. You've got to manage your working capital. All important as well. And you got to leverage your debt wisely. Those 3 areas, many businesses get caught up, and it's not easy to get out of financial jams when you get in them. So it's best to avoid them. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. How do you avoid them? What do they look like? How can you anticipate them so you can do things to stave it off? So again, Andrew Frazier, Small Business Pro and CFO, founded the Small Business Pro Academy University, worked one-on-one with over 1,000 entrepreneurs and business owners over the last 12 years, and really focused on helping people grow, become more profitable, and get financing when they need it. So excited about that. So enough about me. Well, actually, this is a little bit. Anybody recognize that guy? No? Anybody? Nobody? Anybody ever see the movie Better Off Dead? You got to check it out. You got to check it out. My wife loves the movie, so I've seen probably every one multiple times. But what does he look like? Okay. So he's the paper boy in the movie. So he's at the door. And, my first business was a paper route. In 4th grade, my brother and I had a paper route in Pittsburgh. 5 years. 5 years, 7 days a week. So, but it was a great experience, helped prepare us. Snows a lot in Pittsburgh. So, we also knew everybody. So we ended up having a snow shoveling business and hired our friends. How cool is that? But I learned a lot of cash flow issues in that business. You do everything that any other business is in that business. So this is Johnny, Better Off Dead. And, his continuing theme from the movie is, I want my $2. Because he's going to collect from different people's houses. And, you learn how to, you can't just do the service. You got to get your money too. And sometimes you have to work to get your money. So definitely see the movie, but it's well worth it. And he's, one of the funniest characters in there because he chases after people for it. So, you got to get creative. So one of the first things is, with your cash flow cycle, actually, what is a cash flow cycle? Can anyone tell me what a cash flow cycle is?
It's how quickly your capital renews itself.
Okay. So it's like, you put money out to get money back and make money. So, how many days is that? So the one key thing is, if you have cash out, then you have to have the cash to have it out. And a lot of business owners aren't prepared and don't understand that. So it's not enough just to do the work, you got to collect on the work. But not only that, you have to be strategic. As with the paper route, we'd get the papers at the end of the week, the guy would come by and we'd settle up, we'd buy the papers. But I had to collect the money. So whether or not we collected all the money or not, we had to pay them for the papers so that we would get papers for next week. So, being able to collect that sooner and faster was helpful. So you got to be proactive. Nobody likes to go collect money from people, but it's an important skill. And especially in your business, you need to be able to focus on that. So let me just give you a couple examples of how people can shorten their cash flow cycle. One, there's a thing called accounts payable. Wonderful thing. Anybody have an idea what that means? So basically, your suppliers are giving you your supplies on terms. So, instead of paying right when you get the materials, you might have 30 days before you have to pay. So that keeps more time before your money goes out. Then when you manufacture or whatever you do, you sell it, depending, you may give your customers terms, but you may not. But, one of the keys is, when you have terms like that, in the accounts receivable, they owe you the money, basically just giving them a free loan, interest-free loan. So whenever your customers owe you money and have an invoice, you're giving them a free loan. So how often do you want to give out a free loan? Not too much, right? But your suppliers, if they give you terms, they're giving you an interest-free loan. So that's kind of good, right? As long as you are careful with it. So some ways you can improve your cash flow cycle is 1, getting terms, 2, collecting your money faster, 3, I've worked with a company over the last year and a half, and what they do is manufacture items, but they sell them before they even make them. So their customers finance them. So they have like a negative cash flow cycle, and their customers finance them to the tune of over $1 million. So, just little decisions about your cash flow. You should always be looking, how do I shorten my cash flow cycle? I was coaching someone recently, and she had a business for like 12 years, and she had cash flow issues, but she just realized all her cash flow issues were stemmed from her not getting the money on time and having to pay her employees. So what she did was put everybody on credit cards, because the check is in the mail and all that fun stuff. You don't have that anymore, on the date that you need the money. So as a business owner, you have choices you can make to be able to shorten your cash flow. So you want your cash flow, your cash in quicker, and if you can get free financing, it's okay for it to go longer, but important. Next, working capital. Yes.
So, did you lose any customers?
Actually, no. Actually, many of them were happier because they like to buy stuff on credit. And the only ones she lost were the ones that she was kind of not disappointed about losing, because she also raised her prices at the same time too. So yeah, definitely those things can work. There's always a level of risk in everything as far as, as a small business owner, you got to send your invoices. And, sometimes you can get behind on it. I get behind on it sometimes too. But, if you don't send your invoice, that means you're probably not going to get paid. And not everybody's going to be as great as Lorena and saying, I didn't get your invoice, send it to me so I can pay you. So you definitely need to manage that. So working capital. Working capital is a concept and something that's important to understand as a business owner as well. What is working capital? So, working capital is the money you need in your business for it to be able to run successfully. It covers, when you're making your zero interest loans to your customers, you still need cash. So working capital helps to cover that. And generally it's your liabilities, things you owe within a year. So your current or short-term liabilities, and they're subtracted from your current or short-term assets. So, when you manage with your working capital, you're looking at managing your accounts receivable with your accounts payable. Being able to do that allows you to balance out the interest-free loans that you're making and that are made to you, so you can finance your business somewhat through there. And one of the first problem areas with your business is if you see the accounts payable growing a lot more than the accounts receivable, because that means you're getting behind on your payments. And as you do that, you can get in trouble with your suppliers. So that's an important piece. The other thing we look at very closely is inventory. You see I've got don't get whipped there. And what that comes from is I wrote an article for Manufacturing Matters. And work in progress inventory is WIP. So don't get whipped is because many times their inventory is out of line with, and they have too much inventory. So as a result, so much cash is tied up in their inventory. So important to manage. I had a client that came in because they were having cash flow issues. They were growing, they didn't know what was going on. We're growing, we're selling more, but every month the owner had to keep putting more money in the business. And her finance person was like, "Oh, it'll turn around next month. Oh, it'll turn around," and it kept getting worse. So they finally called someone in. So I came in, took a look, and the first thing I saw was they're growing. Whenever your business is growing, it's going to take more cash than it gives you, even if you're more profitable and you're selling more. So understanding that dynamic, if you're going to grow, you have to have extra money in your business to grow. You have to finance your growth. A lot of businesses can go out of business just as fast by not by growing too much as by not growing enough. So don't get whipped. They were having cash flow issues. We looked at their working capital. We met on their working capital. So every time we look at their accounts receivable, their accounts payable, their inventory, and and their cash balance, and manage through, because they were having issues with their suppliers, and you got to be proactive. They called their suppliers, let them know what was going on. The suppliers many of them were able to be more lenient because they had done business longer together, but it's a process you had to manage. Every week we looked at, what do you expect to have coming in? What do you need to get out? What's your balance? How much inventory did you buy? How much did you sell? Because they had a lot of money tied up in inventory that they really needed. So if you have to actively manage them, you have to look at every aspect of your business. So working capital and managing that helps you with your cash flow, helps you identify potential issues. It allows you to know what financial position you're in. So you got the working capital. And then using leverage wisely. Anyone here ever get in trouble with a credit card? probably everybody at some point in their life. Everybody understands how it can be a challenge sometimes. Debt is a double-edged sword. It can be good, but it can be bad. So, with your business, it's very important. You can get debt, but before you get that, you need to know what you're going to use it for. You need to know what your return is going to be on the debt that you're using. And you need to make sure it's at a high enough rate. A lot of people get financing to bring on employees, but if you don't have the business for that, then you're not going to get a return on your debt. So a lot of things you got to be very careful of. And then a lot of people get in trouble because they don't understand it. They go to the wrong people for financing. And you hear personal and business issues when people go to financing. They end up paying 30%, 50% interest on their money. And just a couple guidelines is one, I always recommend don't take financing from people who want to give it to you, because usually that's the wrong person to get the financing from, especially if they want to give it to you real fast. You want to find the people who don't want to give it to you, or you have to work to get it because they're going to give you the best rate and the best terms. And in business, as is different than personal, you don't have business protections. You got personal protections, so there's a limit to what they can do to you. But in business, you don't have those protections. So whatever the contract and the terms you sign, you're stuck with them, and you better understand them. Started working with a client beginning of last year. He was already in the process of buying his facility. And, I was like, you want me to help you? He's like, I got it. I was working because I came in towards the end. I was like, and so, he signed his documents. But, 2 months ago, he was like, man, my mortgage was 5%, but it's 9% because it's a floating rate and not fixed. So instead of paying, $1,000 a month, I got to pay $1,800 a month with no warning. So, just little terms and little things can make all the difference in the world. Another thing is, financing, you don't just take it and not give it back. If you're getting a line of credit, they expect you to pay it down at times. A lot of business owners get the financing and take the money out of the business. And then if you want to get financing or want people to invest, they're going to see that you did that. Definitely, with a line of credit, there's two key things. One, it's for temporary need of money. So it's to fill a gap. Number two, it's a current liability. You're going to owe it back within a year. So you need to have asset liability management. You should be buying current assets with the current liability. As opposed to if you buy long-term assets with the current liability, it's going to drain your cash. How does it look if to an investor, if paying yourself or looking at it, paying the business? And what I would say, it probably doesn't matter. They're going to look at it the same way. Most times, they're looking at your cash flow. So it doesn't matter if the cash flow is going here or here. At the end of they would want to know, but are you making money, and how are you making money, and is that sustainable? So it's very important to you can do little tricks and other stuff, and sometimes accountants do too, to get you from not paying taxes, but that's not always the right thing, like Melinda said. Yes, ma'am.
What if I have credit with a supplier and I'm on a 30-day pay cycle, right?
Yes.
So they bill me, I got to pay within 30 days, but my customers have a tendency to pay within like 45 days. Well, how do I bridge that 15-day gap?
Okay, and that's what your line of credit's for. You get your line of credit, but you use it for something when there's more money coming in to pay it down. You don't. Yes.
I do business with a lot of corporations,
and some of them, what I've experienced recently is that their basic payment terms are net 60, but sometimes they'll come back, they have a third-party company that will come to you and say, listen, we'll put that money in your account tomorrow if you give them a 3.75% discount on your invoice for work you've already done.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've had that happen with 2 major corporations in the last 6 months.
Okay. And that's really what Square is, what Stripe is, all the credit card companies. They're doing the same thing. And one thing you can do in that situation is just start charging people. And you probably should be charging people more already because most small businesses are underpriced. So definitely you want to take a good look at what you're charging and see if it's the right price, and it'll allow you to achieve the goals you have for your business. There's nothing worse than having a plan, and even if you implement the plan, you're not going to achieve your goals. So
in Melinda's case, so if she built in like a 4% extra in her price structure, can she offer, and she offered like cash discount, like a 4% cash discount if you pay within 10 days, right? Will like a major corporation respect that? Will they?
No.
Yeah.
I can't answer that for you.
No.
They won't. I mean, the thing that they're doing now is, first of all, corporations never pay less than net 45. I mean, and so if you're dealing with a net 45, net 60 situation, and then somebody's going to come in and ask you for a discount, they're asking you a discount when they're already at net 30 or potentially even net 45. They're coming to ask you for a discount, which I think is incredibly disingenuous and unfair. But my problem is I can't write a blog post and out the companies that did it because they're my customers. But I really want to.
Okay.
I don't blame you.
So
Yes, sir.
the net 30, net 30, 45, are they the 7 days of the week or 5 business days? How is that
That's
calculated?
business.
Business days.
Well,
I mean, I take that back. Sometimes it's business days, sometimes it's you invoice them on the 1st and 31st, when it's due. I just think that it's hard. And it's also hard to charge them an up fee for using a credit card to pay too. Like some
Right.
corporations won't go for that. Every now and again, I have a corporation ask me, oh, is there a fee if we pay you with a credit card? And my answer is yes, there is.
okay.
It is 3% or it's 2 point, whatever the credit card company's charging me, 2.9, that's what I'll charge them.
But that's actually illegal. I mean, right, but more and more places
It is,
do it.
but I think some corporations realize they're doing business with small businesses. Now, if you go into the store and you see, we charge $5 if you use, like, I don't know if you guys gone to the nail salon, the dollar store stuff, and seen this, we charge you $3 if you use that's very illegal, actually. But people are doing it all over the place. Yeah.
Cash discount if you pay cash. And reverse it that somehow.
Oh,
Yeah.
right,
So
right.
But everything.
Everybody's doing this because the fees is killing people. And if your margins are thin and you're already waiting on money, what happens is the money's not even worth the same amount by the time you get it because you had to finance stuff before you got it. And that's what people really have to realize. It's like, what does it really cost you to do business is the real issue.
Yeah. And, definitely it depends on who you're doing business with. In life, everything can be negotiable depending on what your needs are and their needs are and the different situations. So when you can negotiate, you don't want to tell yourself no to something. So it never hurts to ask. Processes, procedures, systems are so important. You want to have consistency, but you also need the information. How are you going to manage something if you don't have any information to manage it? A lot of people run their business without using numbers. Everything's qualitative, but you can't improve something unless you can measure it. And so within your business, you should be measuring everything. That's why you have key KPIs, key performance indicators. How are you going to manage your cash flow if you don't know how much cash you have? You don't know how much cash came out, went out. Some business owners meet with their accountant once a year. So, your financials have so much information in them. So does it make sense to wait 12 months to figure out that you're pricing too low and you're losing money? Having the processes, procedures, and systems, getting the information that's accurate and timely, that's what allows you to run your business professionally. That's what allows you to eventually be able to work on your business instead of in your business. And there's no way you can do it if there's no way that you can have your business run without you successfully if you haven't instituted the right policies, procedures. Very important stuff. So thank you for sharing that. So using leverage wisely is key. I've worked with business owners, just like individuals, they use their line of credit and then they want to go to someone else to get another line of credit to pay that line of credit off. And, or just the zero interest credit card things. That's not really how you should be using it. And that's how you can get into trouble. So, using leverage wisely is key. And, I've only scratched the surface, but at least what I wanted to do is give you some perspective and insight on why it's so important, a little bit about how to do it, and things to look out for, things to expect. Remember a couple things as we close out. Remember that if you're going to grow, it's going to take cash instead of giving you cash. So you need to finance that up front, not when you start running out of cash. Remember that you have to manage your cash flow cycle. Figure out, how can I get my cash into me quicker, and how can you get a little bit more time on the cash that you owe? So shorten that. Like I said, you can collect. You can if you can get your customers pay you before, that's amazing. If you can get the customers pay you at the same time, that's still pretty good. But as you're taking terms out there, you just have to realize you're giving them an interest-free loan, and factoring that in to what you're charging and factoring that into your cash flow plan. Do I need to get financing?
We work very hard to get rid of carrying any invoice. As a payroll company, it's nicer because we got payroll. We just do you when we take your check. So, how do we pay you? So don't worry, we'll take care of that. We got it. But for a long time, we actually had people want us to send them a check. I think that's social. We'd send them a check, they would sign it, send it back to us at the end of the month. We're like, so that went away a long time ago.
So
you take it, and you have a nice day.
Okay, no, definitely. So the timing matters as well. So thanks for sharing that, because if you give credit to people, the longer it is since they've paid you, the longer it's been due, the less likely it is they'll ever pay. And one thing that's interesting to small business owners that you don't see from the outside is your customers don't always pay you, or they don't always pay you what they said they were going to pay you, and definitely many times don't pay you when they said they were going to pay you. So it's very important to manage your communications, manage your accounts receivable, and really overall look at how you're going to manage the business. Yes, Wendy.
So when your customers don't pay, what is the legal, like what can you do legally without going to court? I mean, because it's a small amount, but it's still owed to me, right? So I want it. But I don't want to make it a big deal and go to court because my clients are moms, wrong. So I don't really, but I want to show you that I want money. I don't want to go out there like this day here doesn't take money. Like I want.
You just send your shady Uncle Lou over to visit him, and he'll take care of it.
But a letter once that it may be, we would probably take you to court. And all those words, maybe probably, that person probably knew that letter came.
Well, just a couple things about court. If you end up going to court, everybody loses.
Yeah, right.
Because, one of my friends gave me a like the lawyer told him like 3 numbers. And I think it was like 3, 7, and 9. So the 3 was, it takes 3 years for the case to even go through and be completed. I think 9 was like $9,000 is the minimum that you're going to pay. And so, by the time you do all that, a lot of people go out of business suing larger companies. So what you got to do is you got to evaluate who you do business with. You don't just do business with anyone, and you don't just give anyone terms. So very, very important, because if you have a contract, signed specifically for that, you have a little bit more of a leg to stand on. But if they're bigger than you and they have more money than you, it's going to be very difficult to sue them. One way to avoid that or limit it is through your relationship. If you build the right relationship with your customer, they're going to pay you. If they're not, you can call them and say, hey, what's up with the bill? As opposed to but if you have the relationship, it makes everything work better. It may make it a void. They'll take the time to talk to you. They're not going to, so just a lot of little things you can do. And that's why it's sort of like defense. You got to plug all the holes and make sure nothing gets through. So that's really what cash flow management's all about. I didn't want to, we've had some great questions. It's been a really good session. Love the interactiveness. So definitely appreciate the opportunity. Once again, my book, Running Your Small Business Like a Pro, is back there. The 3rd chapter is called What is Your Greatest Fear? Because most business owners, the greatest fear is numbers and analysis. And that's the most important thing that you need to do after you're able to start making some sales. So don't be afraid of them. Hopefully this wasn't rocket science, and numbers don't bite. But if you're in business, you gotta know the language of business. You gotta know the numbers, and it's something anybody can do. If you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide with a calculator, then you can do your financials. So if you can't do that, you probably shouldn't be in business. So talk about that and other things. As I mentioned, we still do our weekly live stream and podcast. Great opportunity to learn. I have some tremendous guests on every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. and Thursday mornings. A podcast comes out as well. So on all your regular channels. And this is what I'm super excited about this year, the Small Business Pro Network. We're still tweaking it, but if you'd like to join before, you can get a chance to see what it is, and it's going to be really powerful. We've got over 100 business owners on there now, but it's only going to increase. It gives you an opportunity to see the schedule of all the training, all the other things that we do through the university, and get access to, and many of them are for free because we're focused on education. It also is sort of like the best of LinkedIn and Facebook together. So you can have a profile, you can message and talk to different business owners. And, my goal and expectation is, once we launch, within 3 months, we should have over 1,000 businesses on there. So it's a great network, a great opportunity to connect with business owners. And, it takes a team, and you need to continue to build relationships. So it's going to be a platform just like this to help you learn best practices, to help you enjoy great